Climavision has come around. We have been without. We're like a lot of places in the United States with radar holes. In Arkansas, we have two distinct radar holes: Southeast Arkansas and Northeast Arkansas, and it's a matter of filling in those gaps. And that's what you guys are doing, right?
Exactly right. We, like you, have been troubled as a fellow meteorologist by essentially the problem that was introduced just by the placement of the radars that we do have. I mean, we're very, very fortunate here in the United States. We're kind of the envy of the world. We have 200 National Weather Service accessible radars. They're known as next-rad radars, and they're operated by the National Weather Service, the FAA, the Department of Defense, and we really are very, very fortunate. But we have a massive piece of real estate here in the United States to cover with those radars, and so just the math doesn't add up, and so the placement has been what it is. Unfortunately, as you know, there all too well in Arkansas, a radar, although its range can be 125 miles in the radius or 250 miles diameter, once you get about 60 miles away from a National Weather Service radar, physics comes into the problem. The radar beam goes out straight, but the Earth curves away. And when it curves away, we're not seeing whatever's below the beam. And as we know, there was a storm up in Springdale, Arkansas earlier in the spring, and it wound up being an F3 that was, at first may not have been noticed on the next-rad radars, but it is a problem. It's a problem around the country, and it interferes with our ability to see tornadoes, but all kinds of events. For aviation purposes, you have a problem with
our vision is very good around those radar sites once you're close in, but our viewers in portions of Arkansas, we just have a problem detecting the smaller tornadoes, especially the further you get out from radar. Once they're big tornadoes, they're detectable, but it's those small tornadoes that are especially quick-lived that we're missing from time to time because we just don't have eyes that go out that far, and that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, the beam is basically when you get far enough, let's say you get 60 miles away from one of the radars, which is not that far inside your viewing area, right? It's not that far from the radar, but it's you're almost a mile above the ground with the beam of the radar. By the time you get 90 miles from radar, you're almost 2 miles above the ground, and you're 120 miles away from radar, you're 3 miles above the ground. And when I say above the ground, I mean we're not able, and you're not able to see the structure of the storm, the thing you need to be able to warn your viewers. You just can't see it, and nor can the National Weather Service. So we're stepping in essentially as a private company to build out supplemental radars to assist in this. We need it for our own purposes. We're doing numeric weather modeling. We've built our own weather model. So we're going to plug this very valuable radar data into it.
That's very exciting. So you're going to use the radar, I assume, radar data from NextRad, radar data from your radars, and put together some sort of comprehensive short-range, high-resolution computer model?
That's exactly right. We'll be essentially producing what's known as a rapid refresh model every hour, and it will take in this. It's almost rocket fuel when you have these low elevation radar returns from a high-resolution radar like the ones that we're deploying. It's just going to make the radar model that much more accurate, that much more precise, that much more timely. And so that's actually the business that we're in. It's a happy circumstance that we need the radars to make our model work, and that we'll be able to produce the weather forecast. But the happy circumstance is that these radars that we're going to be rolling out, we can make them available to television stations, to the National Weather Service, to aviation interests, anyone that has an immediate need for high resolution radar to do the work that they do. In your case, warning the public of an impending disaster like a tornado, but even seeing things in the wintertime, like an icing event or a snow event that crops up that you're just not aware of because it might be below the level of the radar beam today. So it has many, many benefits.
Where are you starting? I know that are you already putting radars up? Where do you plan on putting them in Arkansas? How's the plan evolving right now?
Yeah, so it'll be hundreds of radars when we're done. I mentioned that the National Weather Service has deployed, nearly 200. They have access to nearly 200. We'll be doing more than 200. Our intent is essentially to if you will, have radars hold hands every 60 miles, right? We're gonna make sure that the coverage is complete, so that every radar, its nearest neighbor, is 60 miles or less away, and that's going to require hundreds of radars to do that. And we've already begun in Western North Carolina. We've installed our first two. We're essentially installing these across the South to begin with, and then marching northward and then westward. And altogether, it will take us a couple of years to roll it all out. But we are focused on Arkansas. We'll actually be adding a total of 5 radars into Arkansas.
5 radars in Arkansas.
Yes, essentially filling those gaps that you're well aware of up to your north and to your east. So basically, all around your viewing area, and really storms approaching from any direction into your viewing area. Of course, if you have access to them, you'll have a much better understanding of what's coming your way. And for the people that live in some of those outlying areas within your viewing area, they're going to have a much better, much clearer picture of what's coming their way as a result of these radars.
And you think they're going to be operational within the next 2 years?
Yeah, our plan for Arkansas is that we should have them up in place within 2024. Our plan for the whole country is essentially in under 4 years. So it's moving very rapidly. As you could well imagine, this is a costly endeavor, and part of it is essentially the reason we're doing this, as I said, is to build this better weather model, which we're selling. But we needed some seed money to get started, private equity. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, it's kind of like that process. Went out and found investors. We were very fortunate to find a company that's quite committed to climate and weather. The company name is TPG, and they have about $110 billion in assets under management that they invest. Within their company, there's a fund called the RISE Fund, and the RISE Fund is devoted to climate and infrastructure, essentially improving everyone access to the types of technologies to make to mitigate extreme weather. And so we fit right within that, and that's about a $7 billion fund, and we're fortunate enough to get our first round of funding. It was $100 million essentially to kick this off.
200 radars around the United States. I mean, that's congratulations first, because that's a monumental task. But what I want to know is, how do you plan on maintaining those radars? If one goes down, how are you going to be able to maintain that number of radars?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all part of the business plan. We're building out. At first blush, we're a weather company. We're building a weather model, and as a meteorologist, you can appreciate what that takes to do. But we're also a research and development company, and so we've built out the ideas of how to build that model and how to infuse it with this high resolution data. But we're also a technology company. Up until now, anybody who chose to install 200 radars, and there's really only one place that's doing that, the National Weather Service. That was a very high intensity. Put a building in, staff it with 30 or 40 people, operate it 24 hours a day. Our approach is much leaner. We're going to essentially be installing these fully automated, and we'll be running them remotely. And we have exactly the processes in place to do that. We have our vendor who's building our own radar for us, who is essentially on call to go and repair these with 24 hours notice. We have systems in place to let us know if the radar is acting up, even just if there's something in it that's just maybe overheating.
What kind of radars are you going to be putting out? What kind of radars?
It's known as X-band. It's a almost a millimeter wavelength. It's a very high precision radar technology. It's essentially noted for its ability to see very, very fine particles. So it's very, very good at noting when there's, say, debris coming up out of a tornado. You'll be able to see that bloom happening. And the one of the reasons that we chose it is the resolution of the image is much, much greater. And for people watching at home, when you think about resolution, a standard definition TV, or you walk into a Best Buy or a Costco, and you look at a high def TV, and then you look at 4K, and then you look at an 8K TV, and you see that just a remarkable difference in those pictures. Our radar is essentially operating kind of in the 8K range. It's got 8,000 bins along every radial that we send out from the radar. It picks up a great deal of detail. That also helps with things like winter weather. So we can see much finer particles. That's why I commented on the snow earlier. You can see much finer particles, know when icing is beginning to fall. It's just a very, very good tool to kind of put in place around an array around the S-band radars that the National Weather Service operates.
I'm, as a meteorologist here at KTV in Little Rock, I'm excited because this means so much to our viewers. Especially in those areas where we, like you said, in Southeast Arkansas, is it Eudora? I think you said far Southeast Arkansas that's going to have a radar. We're looking at Shreveport, we're looking at Jackson, we're looking at Little Rock, and we're shooting so high up with the radar beam we can't see what's down low. But I'm very excited about this. My question now is, how am I going to be able to access this data? Am I going to have to pay for the data? Is it going to be in radar scope? Is it going to be in our WSI Max? How are we going to be able to access that data?
Yeah. So our plan is to make it available to anybody who, essentially anybody who needs it for operational purposes. So television stations are certainly very high on our list. We are making it available in each market that we come into. So you will be able to access it. If you have the Mac system, we actually have an arrangement already in place with the weather company, part of IBM, for providing that radar data. Our first radar in Western North Carolina is on the air at WBTV, and they are essentially displaying it through the Mac system. It is also available for use within any of the products sold by the TWC for the digital, for websites and what have you.
All right, so the National Weather Service will be able to use it and as part of their warning process.
We would love to have them use it. I mean, obviously the National Weather Service needs to evaluate us, essentially test that the sensor that we're using is appropriate, plumb it into their own systems. But we recognize the value, and we certainly, anyone on our staff, and we've grown a great deal since we were born a year ago, that has a weather background. This is, the holy grail of anybody who goes into meteorology is being able to help communities and avoid the tragedies that we see as a result of a tornado outbreak. And so we absolutely want to get this into the hands of the watch and warning officers that work for our National Weather Services. And to the extent that we can have that conversation with them, we are, and we would love to partner with them anywhere where it makes sense for them. But they have a process to follow, and we recognize that, and we respect the great work that they do, and we're just hopeful that they have a place for us.
IBM has developed the graph, high-res computer model, short range, and so that's available to weather company users like KATV. So we'll be able to access this stuff here because we're on that system. Will your modeling, your short-range modeling, your rapid refresh be available to us as well?
Yeah, so I am a long time. I've worked for the weather company for almost 30 years, and left them essentially to come help the founding team here at Climavision. So yes, we actually, in the same way that we have already agreed to plumb our radars into the weather company products, the Mac system. We're having initial conversations with them and an evaluation of putting our models in. There's actually two models that we're producing. One is a global model, like the graph, and we've actually shared some files with them to have them evaluate that and determine the best way to bring it into their system. The Aura model will be coming along as soon as we have the radars in place. And once those are in place, we'll have the second rapid refresh model that will be devoted to the United States only. And that one, we would certainly would follow the same path. We'd like to get that into Max as well.
All right, Tad, I've run out of time, and I want to thank you for your time and helping us inform our viewers as to the great things that are being done to help keep everybody safe and the data that's going to be out there and provided by you guys. I look forward to working with you again in the future. Thank you.
That would be fantastic. Thanks for your time. We're happy to be bringing a radar to a neighborhood near you.